And welcome to the Dr. Tech Show, where myself, Pauline Roche, Sweyn Hunter, and often guests guide you through the world of online communications in a show which is the brainchild of the late great internet evangelist John Popham. And in traditional fashion, we start with the weather, which was lovely this morning. It's at several places in Birmingham, and now it's changed again. Now it's raining, but I did get my windows washed, so at least there's more light coming in. Sweyn, how was the weather in Orkney?
Weather today is lovely. Blue skies with a few clouds. But my goodness, what a lot of rain we had over the weekend. A friend of mine said we've gone in one day from, oh my goodness, some rain. Thank goodness the garden needs it, to, oh, enough rain. When's spring?
Excellent. And Paul, our special guest today is Paul Clayton, as was last week. We're delighted to have him back again. Paul, where are you and what's the weather like there?
Hey there, Pauline. Sweyn. I'm in southeast London and it is sunny. It is strangely sunny, actually. It was a bit rainy this morning, but it's fine now.
Mm-hmm. You're looking upwards. Is there a skylight above you? Or?
There is skylight above me. I've got, it's a painting studio, so we're allowed natural light.
Lovely, lovely. It's not. There's nothing like it, is there? I mean, I have a ring light and everything. I haven't got it on at the moment. I just have lights overhead, but there's nothing like natural light to illustrate, what you're doing. Sweyn, are you a big light aficionado?
Yes, definitely. I've got a lovely attic room here with a Velux shining light in this way.
Lovely. Yeah. Okie dokie. So we picked up a few things to talk about today, and we just want to repeat our announcement from last week in that John Popham, who started this show, has been selected as all digital awards 2021 finalist with the European organization Unite IT in the best digital changemaker category, and we myself and Portia Roberts Popham will be John's wife will be tuning in next week to see the awards being announced, and hopefully John will have triumphed. And it's just great to see him being recognized for all the great work that he did, especially since it's just been over a year since his sad passing. So we send our regards to the family, and we look forward to celebrating hopefully next week. Okay, moving on, we have picked up another couple of things. On the 2nd of October, it was the International Day of Non-Violence, observed on the 2nd of October, which is the birthday of Mahatma Gandhi, leader of the Indian independence movement and pioneer of the philosophy and strategy of non-violence. And according to the General Assembly resolution, as was of 15th of June 2007, which established the commemoration, the International Day is an occasion to disseminate the message of non-violence, including through education and public awareness. And the resolution reaffirms the universal relevance of the principle of non-violence and the desire to secure a culture of peace, tolerance, understanding, and non-violence. So I'm sure we can all say that's a good idea. And hopefully we have non-violence through digital as well as other means. Moving on, the 5th of October, which is tomorrow now, is World Teachers' Day and a UNESCO celebration. And the website says 1.5 years into the COVID-19 crisis, the 2021 World Teachers' Day will focus on the support teachers need to fully contribute to the recovery process under the theme Teachers at the Heart of Education Recovery. And a 5-day series of global and regional events will showcase the effect that the pandemic has had on the teaching profession, highlight effective and promising policy responses, and aim to establish the steps that need to be taken to ensure that teaching personnel develop their full potential. Paul, were you in teaching at one stage? Were you a teaching person?
I was. Yeah. I started out in Lewisham and also in Southwark College. I was working with 16 to 19-year-olds who'd pretty much failed at school and were going through the motions. It was interesting because it was marketed as an IT course, but then it was maths and English on the back of it. And I was constantly banging on about trying to get them to do maths and English in the IT suites as well, which seems to have come to pass. But I was also given my first opportunity of working with people with disabilities. And it was really, really interesting. I met a Paralympian, a gold medalist from Nigeria. Yeah, she was, and she was, it really was interesting because she was so focused. She was a shot putter. Really interesting experience. So yes, I was a teacher for a number of years, and I haven't had really an opportunity to jump back into that. I'd like to, but I think they're sadly underrepresented.
Do your teaching qualifications help you with the work that you do now?
Well, I'd like my teaching qualifications to be better, but it's vocational, right? So you've got to be part of a college to get up the ladder. It has helped me structure me historically. I remember when I first started my teacher training, just writing journals. I'd never been very good at writing diary, but writing a professional journal was just an eye-opener and really, really useful.
Yeah. I was the same when I studied youth community play work, keeping a journal like a diary, but kind of more reflective, wasn't it? Isn't it?
Yeah.
To encourage you to think about what you're doing, not just record it, was very valuable to me in my experience back in the day. Yeah. Sweyn, do you record your daily?
I'm not very good at that to be
work?
honest. No, I do think about it a lot, but I don't write much down.
People say you can do like voice notes and stuff now, but I fail to see how you can go back to where, on a page you can go back to see the written word, you can see where you were on a voice note, unless they're highly indexed, then I would find it difficult to use that for reflection. Yeah. We have another day we picked up, which is World Mental Health Day on the 10th of October every year, and this is the World Health Organization campaign, and the overall objective of World Mental Health Day is to raise awareness of mental health issues around the world and to mobilize efforts in support of mental health. And this day provides an opportunity for all stakeholders working on mental health issues to talk about their work and what more needs to be done to make mental health care a reality for people worldwide. And, this definitely seems to link into digital stuff, because I think I have certainly found that I have to make a conscious effort to step away from screens now, because it does impact on my mental health, and sort of, you can get kind of caught up in just being on screens and kind of not being with people so much. What about you guys? Are you finding your mental health has changed in the last year or 18 months?
Well, this is my place of solace. This is why my alternative therapy, actually. I'm not really much of an artist. I mean, look, I paint pictures of job centre signs, amongst other things. But yes, I find painting very therapeutic, and you're quite right. It's a bit like I came across a ratio of creating and consuming. And if you don't get the ratio right, you don't really feel the benefits. I think if you're consuming too much information, then what happens is something's wrong. You're basically not engaging with the world enough. If you're creating anything, it doesn't have to be painting. It can be all sorts of things. But just engaging with the world in some way, then it has its benefits. I also do my Tai Chi practice, which also is a real blessing as well. Yeah,
I did a yoga class as well. It's kind of a fitness class this morning, but a lot of yoga moves, and I do find you have to consciously do it though, because it's very easy to not do it. And yesterday I was supporting a friend running a virtual London marathon in Birmingham, so that was getting out and about and seeing friends as well, which was very nice. Sweyn, what about yourself? And have you looked after your physical and mental health over the last 18 months?
Well, we've got dogs, so that I always find that helps to get out with the dogs every day and just kind of speak to them and look after them and have them about. That's really the main thing that I do is get out and walk every day.
Very nice. I was speaking to probably somebody, at least one of you knows, Anne-Marie Naylor. She kind of is active in the social media scenes from time to time. Common Futures, I think, is her company. And I was speaking to her about haptic and technology during the year sometime. And, the physical feeling of, I've missed kind of physical, because we weren't able to hug people in the recent past. And it was a real gap for me. And I found, being able to stroke something tactile was very positive. And I mean, obviously, if you have a dog or a cat or an animal of some sort, then you can get that from that.
Very much.
Yeah, so I'd like to do more of that. I'd like to make technology, responsive to the physical needs of people, to improve our mental health. That's a more long-term thing. Okay, one more thing that we picked up was BT Skills for Tomorrow. You may have comments about this, Paul. They do a whole load of courses apparently, which I hadn't realized. If Sweyn brings it up on the screen, yeah, we can see free events and webinars on screen now. Is get started with analytics, YouTube for your brand, create new videos with YouTube, get started with digital advertising, grow your business through sustainability, and boost your job application, among others. I don't know how long these are. Kind of looks like fairly short. The webinars, and maybe you can get them afterwards as well. Make your CV work for you. Assessment centers, be a hit at interviews. Okay, I might pick up that one. Because public speaking is something that I have to do from time to time, and I'm always keen to improve my ability to do that. I did a stand-up comedy course at one stage to try and overcome some of the feelings that I have about it, but it was good to do the course, but I'm not sure it had a lasting effect. But yeah, do any of those courses grab you, Paul? Are you likely to recommend them to anybody?
That's very interesting. I do some employability work every now and again, and I've just come across a co-working space in New Cross down the road from me, and they've started doing some events which they're streaming about people, independent workers, people starting up small businesses, and I think that this all sort of ties in together. I can see that it's a little bit above the usual skill set of people I work with presently, but I can see that how that's really useful. I can see it's sort of an add-on to the toolbox. I think what happens is that there's some things I tend to find that is really unbelievably common in terms of how CVs are made and how people market themselves, and it's generally badly. And myself included, right? I can do the job for other people, but I can't seem to do it for myself. But when you're talking about the public speaking side of things, I had a major experience. I was a market boy as a child, and my boss said to me one day, "I want you to try and sell some shoes, and I want you to shout out the cost of the shoes." And I said, "Are you sure?" And he went, "Yes, I want to hear you shouting out the cost of those shoes." So at first it would be 50, and then it sort of, the mumbling became a little bit more pronounced, and by the end of it I was definitely broadcasting, and ever since then I've never really had a problem with public speaking. I've had a little bit of training as well, but I don't know. I also have been told that I should be a comedian of some kind, but I'm just I never know if that's some sort of joke at my expense or what. I don't know, so I think yes, I think it's really worthwhile for people to learn about those skills, especially about CVs. They're the pitching document, and covering letters as well. Really crucial stuff.
Absolutely, yeah, and I'll be doing a bit of that with the people in Northfield and Edgbast, and job searching. When we were allocating tablets to distribute in the last couple of weeks, job searching was one of the things that people said they wanted to have some help with. So it's good to pick up ways of better ways of doing that, and kind of giving people an opportunity to kind of study at their own pace as well.
It's true. I've got some. I made some superhero CVs.
Yeah,
I did.
What's that then?
Well, I was working with young people a few years ago doing this, and what it was just that they had nothing to model on, and I thought, well, what can I do to show them what a good CV looks like? So I wrote up a CV of Spider-Man, and I did another one for Captain Marvel. Yeah, and I also came across a really interesting tool called What's Your Strength? And it's a card-based package. The woman who created is a really high-level employability advisor. She's very, very good. And she's created what it is. One side of the one half of the pack are about subjects. So it's skill-based, but you don't have to be skill-based. And then the other one is about general qualities. And you can actually just let someone go through them and choose the aspects that they can approach or they feel comfortable
Excellent.
about. And then you make a mind map.
Yeah.
Fantastic. It really helped. The less involved I got, the better it became.
I love that because I did a strengths-based leadership course some years ago now, and the woman who did it was a great friend of mine and has sadly passed since. But I think concentrating on your strengths rather than your weaknesses, as so many of us have had to do, is so much more better for us. Sorry, something falling behind me. So much better for us to think positively about what we can do, not what we can't do. And this looks brilliant, Paul.
It's great.
Yeah.
I've had nothing but successes with it. If I can make my mouth work.
Sweyn just brought it up on screen there. Sweyn,
He
what's
did
the
a great job.
what's the website? Is the link? Is it a
Website
short
is
link?
what's your strength, all one word, .co.uk. What's your strength,
Excellent.
.co.uk.
Okay. And is that a free one,
No,
Paul?
no, it's not. It's
okay.
it's about, I think it's about £23. She spent quite a lot of time and effort developing it, and it's meant to be used in professional situations, shall we say, where you're legitimately helping out a young person. But I gather she wanted to. I managed to garner a phone call with her, and we talked about the potentials about where to go with it, such as digital options, and also about for adults. Maybe,
well,
it
seems like there is a pack of cards for adults and a pack of cards for teens.
Oh, well, there you go.
Each costs £25, and
that's the one. Thank you very much, Sweyn.
So there is now a pack specifically for adults as well as for teenagers.
I'm going to get it because that sounds brilliant, and it sounds like something we could definitely use. Yeah, brilliant. Strengths-based leadership I find much more positive than other types. So obviously we've been talking to Paul, but we want to welcome Paul back again to the show this week. Paul has been is becoming a regular guest on the show now. And having him 2 weeks in a row is excellent.
Yes.
As we've said earlier, he has experience as a teacher. He's also been a salesperson and internet technical support analyst, which we are all familiar with doing that from time to time. And it has roles in a variety of service industries. And he has worked with art groups in West Sussex and Southeast London. Paul, what do you currently call yourself? Your job, your kind of role. How do you describe yourself?
Oh, that's wonderful, because I almost thought what other people would describe me, and I daren't say that. Anyway, I have this constant issue with how to actually tell people what I do. There's so many people who I know that constantly ask me what I do, and I think even my mum sort of has issues. She just got something with computers, and no one seems to get a handle on it. And I've always considered myself to be an ICT trainer and consultant. It sounds more grandiose than it really can be, but I think that's where I'm pinning it down, because I have for my sins, I have a fairly sort of shallow yet wide skill set.
Well, yeah, but is that what's needed now? Do people need a more broad, a kind of describe it yourself. How does that play out?
Well, that's very interesting, because I've always had great respect for people whose skill set is narrow and deeper, because I think we're always needing these complements. I think what happens is you see this, especially people with ASD diagnosis, who are very, very delved deep into something, and I really respect that, because what happens is that things get missed when we're running at them or being too quick or too shallow with them. So I think having and also you can I don't have a Dunning-Kruger thing too much. I don't overrate my skills, but what it is, I'll give a crack at anything. And that means I don't end up doing things because I'm doing too many different things. And I also then need to be able to delegate or find someone to do that job for me. That's where the problems start, I think.
I'm very similar. I've recently divested myself of sharing one role, and I'm about to stand down for another one. And it's because I want to concentrate more. Again, delve into something more deeply, digital literacy, to concentrate on that and and support other people who are doing different things. So Paul, you were on the show last week, and we were chatting earlier about some of the things that we talked about last week. Was there anything that you wanted to add to your kind of what you were talking about last week that we might not have touched?
I thought I was being a little bit daring when I was talking about people with disabilities, but I don't. In hindsight, I don't think I was. I think I was talking about mortality and about how we view disabilities through whatever lens. We don't tend to have the right set of thinking, I think, as a society. We seem to think a society model of disability tends to be the norm, which is really quite appalling. But no, I don't. I was hoping this week to have something to show you. I've been working on a shall we say, a little box of tech that I was hoping to show, but I've left it at home. So I've done myself no favors. So yes.
Was this kind of your toolkit, the things that you
it's
like
a
to bring with
toolkit.
you? Yeah.
I can explain it. Maybe I could paint pictures with words.
Indeed.
So what it is, I thought about how many moons ago I had a first aid awareness course, and it was a very strange thing. I thought, well, it's not first aid, it's just about the box. It literally is just about how a first aid box works. And it was quite interesting because it has to be maintained and someone has to have responsibility and there's a named person, etc., etc. And I was thinking upon this in terms of how organizations don't seem to have any technology resilience. I don't like to overuse the word digital too much. I think what happens is that technology resilience is about how they have their own and internal approaches and aspects. And then what happens is they have the people that they work with, their beneficiaries and other people wandering into their service. And what can happen is they can be completely unprepared in either direction for how things go wrong or how things can be put wrong or made wrong. So I've been thinking that I did mention Casper last week, and what happened, and he and I have been discussing this about how we can try and address this in organizations. And one of the things I thought about was to have, I do want to have a QVC moment, basically.
Like we did last week, yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to have a QVC moment, and I wanted to be able to take things out the box and go, "Ooh, this is only," and "Ooh, that's only." But I would never say the "I'm" word. As I'd also mention eBay. I think it's all in the interest of balance. And I would love to be able to offer a package. That would be just my market boy, inner market boy, so happy. And make a pre-packaged box. Oh, and that's brilliant. But I think what we'll be talking about is about what kinds of spray to use, and microfiber cloths, maybe a charger with a multiple lead. Do I have a multiple lead here? Hold on, we'll have another QVC moment. Oh yes, there we go. This is my favorite at the moment, and it's just like specific things. This is a corded lead. This is braided, so it doesn't tend to split. They tend to be very good, and it's got multiple.
It's got everything.
Yeah,
all phones.
Yeah, all three, and it's just for charging. So the other end is just that USB that sticks in everything. So I thought, okay, so you talk about using something like this, you'll accommodate a whole bunch of people rather than nobody, and also just get a charger of some kind. Now these are varying beasts as well. If you use one of those plug type things, they tend to be a bit rubbish.
Yeah.
They tend to be really bad. And also I've noticed something. I am terrible at hoarding digital stuff. So what happens is the technology side, I've got really old chargers and the voltages on older phones is distinctly less. distinctly less. So what happens is if you do that, you may not actually fulfill it. And also to note that this isn't a 1-to-3 device cable, it's a 1-to-1.
Well, good point. Yes.
Yes.
Good point.
So, I
Yeah.
mean, and so on. I mean, I wanted to discuss about those things and just keeping it, you know, clean your screen, have some little moments of just trying to keep some definites there. I think because what happens is that a lot of people just want, half the time, they just want to be able to talk to someone to say, you young people, you know all this stuff. And again, I want to separate out the setting up stages with the ability just to learn what they need to know. Yeah. I had just slightly off tangent, but related. I had a session this morning with the lovely Irish group, and this lady there, we've been working together a few weeks, and she just turned around and said that she had dementia. And I thought, right, that's very nice to know, but that makes my job so much harder for you. So we're going to try and talk, not shout at your iPad in future. We're going to see if we can make that happen. And I thought that's really sort of how things have to go. It's about the strategies and the ways to go to make things easier that people do know about. But what happens is you've got to have that mindset. And it's just trying to get that across.
Well, that sounds fascinating, you know, talking, because this is what the kind of thing direction I've been going in as well, to get people, because technology is not it's not user friendly. You know, we know what we know because we've been using it for so long, and we can, you know, do bodges and kind of adapt things and learn how to do things very quickly. But if you haven't grown up with it and it's not your skill set or your then, you know, why would you know the things that we know?
No.
So how do you make technology more like talking to a human being? And talking to the technology does seem to be the way.
It does. Yeah, I had a bit of a mini rant on Friday, I recall now. I was moaning why when you're setting up a device for the first time, why doesn't it ask how old you are?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I can guarantee anyone over the age of 45 will have poor eyesight. Guarantee. It's almost a definite. And it should just set up larger fonts and everything in the first instance. In fact, across the whole board, no matter what system you're looking at, it should be asking you, is this okay for you?
Yeah.
And also, this is another issue I have with user interfaces, is that everything is the tool. It's not about the goal. I may have mentioned this before. You know, it's all about the process, never about the goal. And I find that really awkward. I think, again, it goes back to your point. Not everyone can be bothered learning this stuff. In fact, they don't want to.
No.
They'd rather just get on with using the tool as a tool.
Definitely. Well, we'll be interested to hear how that develops, Paul, because I do think it's going to be the way of things, and it's, with my user group anyway, it's going to be what I want to be pointing them towards. So you've got in your toolbox, you've got a charger and a multi-point cable.
Yeah.
What else would you have?
There's a okay. Well, this is mine, but this is a sort of idea. See-through pencil cases. Always see what you've got.
Yeah.
Always see what you've got. And in the see-through pencil case, hidden away is, I mean, this is an optional extra, but this little beast is the item that I would recommend. Again, multiple ports for everything. It's called an iDragon. And it's got Apple connectors and all of them, really. The C port, all the different USB versions. And it just is there. I was even thinking it may need an extension lead for some instances because it's a bit cramped. But this will go into all devices.
Well, that's to convert one sort of USB to any other sort of USB.
Yeah, you can actually stick this into a phone and then get some data off and then put that into a computer if need be and consolidate things or whatever. You know, there's the instances where this is needed should actually be the last resort. But this is, like I said, there's a sort of an issue with how this is managed again. but I think that they have a use still. Sometimes if you're going to have to wipe a phone, you're definitely needing to be doing this because you don't want to be you don't want to connect it to a computer too much, really, or whatever, especially an iPhone. Imagine how hard that's a pain. That's a real pain. So yes, things like this sort of have their use, and there are other little gadgets in there, like little SD card readers, and also I've got another rummage. I've actually got, he said, wait a minute, I've got another power lead, but an older one. This is even older.
With lots of different
lots on there.
And a big iPhone 4 connector.
Yeah. So these are sort of interesting archived things for people with older devices. And this is also a sort of a hidden issue that people don't necessarily have new devices all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's actually going to be quite hard to get things like this, I would say.
Yeah.
This was given to me by a client, but there was also...
It's the kind of thing, that kind of thing is the kind of thing you sometimes get at tech
That's right.
exhibitions.
That's right. That's exactly where it came from originally.
Yeah.
And then there's this. Now, you might not be able to see that too well. Wait a minute. There we go.
Oh, it's a paperclip.
It's a paperclip.
Very high tech.
Strange. I've got one of those too, right here.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Oh, you have to take.
Tell me what you do with it then.
Well, this is for phones, and to get into tablets with the you have to take the plastic sheath off.
So you with this phone, but the SIM carrier is missing. So there we are.
Oh, right, there you go. Yeah. So it's getting into phones generally, and into phone quite often now. SIM cards and SD cards use the same slot. So what happens is you've got to get in there to put one in for people, or to take one out, or whatever. So it's just little things that sometimes you may need. Frankly, my hope is that they don't need to use them, and we can go from a top level down and have also like an app toolbox of very simple apps. I try to not recommend anyone install anything, frankly, unless it's really, really needed. Because, I had a lady today wanted to talk about Facebook, and I wasn't there, so I missed out. Someone went and installed it, and I went, no, you don't have to do that. It's easier just to install go to the website and show someone how to get back to it. So there's a sort of limitation, because what can happen is that if you go and do too much, then what happens again, you're in that situation where you've been caught doing too much, you become too much technical support. You really just want to be helping people out of holes. You don't want to be showing them how to use it as well. And that's a separate thing. So this is also part and parcel of the support mechanism, whereby you go, right, we've got that done. If you want to practice, come back next week, or we'll do that. We'll just do that. I think that's the sort of approaches I'm going for.
You had an analogy last week, Paul, about a city. People navigating around the city. Is there an analogy with what you've just said?
Oh, well, within this, it's very interesting, because it's actually a first aid box that I've so that's the sort of it's sort, you could say it's like a technology aid box. It doesn't sit within the Internet City too much. Interestingly, it's really we're like at early stages technical support. The Internet City side of things is more about the structures of the internet and how we relate to them. I think what would happen is that community centre that you go to, or to get that support, or that place, the library or whatever, it's sort of it's in the same place. There's no, I would say go and find your library online as much as I would say go to your library in person. The two. There's not very little difference there. So thanks for that, though. I will bear that in mind. So I think that's about, the box isn't extensive. I'd try, but I want it to be a starting point. So I have this thing like a basic triage of, is it clean, is it charged, and is it online? If you're in a place with an online access, then there you go. It's something to do. It's something to check first and make sure in case things need to be done. There's no, 2 iPhones I got onto the Wi-Fi in the center this morning. Both wanted to update to the latest iOS, and I had kept well away. Again, this is something how do you get that across?
But yet that's often said to people when they're doing kind of maintenance, or sort of how do you keep up to date. People are often told, make sure you got the latest updates for your device. So what do you say to them?
I do say it's really worth doing in some respects. I had a very unfortunate scenario with a visually impaired lady who could, with an earlier version of the phone system, could just hold long press and send messages, but she couldn't do it in the next version. And when she upgraded, which I didn't do, I got the sharp end of the stick for. So I think what would have happened if I could have done it, I'd have talked about what was needed first and then said, don't bother. I think it's really about where levels of comfort zones are and what's really applicable. And also, if I remember rightly, it was like 2.4 gigs of download for iOS 5.
Yeah.
Some
updates you can't actually do just on the phone. Because,
So again,
although it prompts you to do it.
Yeah, it's. I mean, there is a sort of an inherent understanding that it's a great idea, but I had a client for a long time who was very much an early adopter, but I always told her, don't bother until you're really clear about what it's going to do for you, what the benefits are. I think that's really my case in point is what are the real benefits. Go and look out for yourself and see what it's going to do for you, and then ignore it if it's not. Until you've got no choice.
Might have more benefits.
Yes, I think it's also,
if you can upgrade once rather than like 3 or 4 times, then for almost everyone that's better. Unless there's some critical security issue going around at the time.
Well, that's always an issue in itself. Yeah, I think there's the whole bunch of things. I think it's jumping a whole system is a big deal.
Yeah.
But then the smaller jumps are always a different issue. And also, I tend to say to people, never jump straight away. Never be an early adopter unless you're capable.
No. Yeah, absolutely not. Don't be the one who finds the bug that crashes your phone every half an hour.
Yeah.
Let somebody else find that one. Let there be a big fuss in the press. Notice that the fuss in the press has now been fixed, and then upgrade your phone.
It's true. I'm also finding a case used for feature phones, the really nice Nokias that have a few functions. I'm starting to think that a lot of people have just advised to get smartphones just because. We had one lady, again, back to that lovely Irish group, but it was they're not unusual in itself, these examples. She only installed a bus app as the only thing she wanted on it, and then never bothered with it. So then I remembered that you could actually text the bus TFL, you can actually put a text out and get to know why bother. And I just thought that this was really the problem. There's this sort of mindset, and I'm telling everyone now, I was asked wonderfully today, why is it, this is not Google Chrome I'm using, it's Safari, but why is Google on the screen? Is Google doing this? I said, no, it's an advertising company. It's all a big, this is what it is. It's getting into your head to do all these different mechanisms. So what it is, it's this phone business is, you don't need all these fancy gadgets. You can maybe have a fancy gadget at home to do things, but you don't necessarily need it on the go. It's about what you need. And sometimes it can be overdone. I think there's a case use definitely for phones that are not as heavily spec'd, and actually last longer.
Yeah.
I wrote about this in a short story about a mobile phone that I did talk about last week, but it just in a brief fashion, because it is just quite an intense use of resources, and I've come across a number of older couples that really just say, I just got a phone for emergencies. what, it can do everything, and you just want it for emergencies. It's a hard, and it's going to update, like you said. It's all these things. It's like, what? Yeah, in fact, the gentleman I was working with last week, I said, we can turn the Wi-Fi on and then we can get the phone updated and it's going to go wild for a while. Don't bother. Don't bother was the response. I'll leave it. I'm not really that bothered. It's just for emergencies. As long as it works. I think this is where we're getting a little bit, I don't know. I love the definitions of words, the glamour. And now glamour is an old word for a spell. I may have said this before as well. And that's what tends to happen. It's like a shiny cover, and it stops us actually looking at things properly. And, so I think it's be great for people to come back on this and think twice about what they're getting their grandparents and go, we'll get you a tablet for at home, Granddad, so you can have a proper go with chatting online. But you don't need to be chatting to us in the street.
That's right.
Yes.
You really don't.
Well, the only reason we got my mum a smartphone was because the Skype, she was using Skype. We still use Skype a bit on her iPad. Wasn't being updated, so she couldn't use Skype on the iPad anymore. So we got a smartphone, and there was some teething troubles. But she loves it now, and she loves it especially though because she can do video calls on WhatsApp. That's been, and I think that's been a game changer for a lot of people.
Yeah.
The simplicity of just being able to press one button and you're talking to your friends and family, and more than one person on the screen now as well, obviously up to 8. So that has been a real boon to lots of people.
Yeah, the messaging apps, I do sort of understand the push towards them, because it's why they said that youngsters don't do email. Effectively, it's just complex, and it is actually very formal. It's a formal structure. It's legally binding, but it's the thing that you turn to when you forget your password, right? So you can't really
back up.
It's the center of the internet world. So it's what I teach primarily. I let people get on with messaging because it's actually relatively straightforward.
Yes.
It is a lot more, and people want it a lot more. So you're right, to being able to do video calls with it was really great. I can't knock it. I prefer the audio record function. I love leaving little audio messages. That's great.
Yeah.
I did a thing with my niece and nephew once where I tried to leave little audio, like it was Dungeons and Dragons game, where I was trying to actually get them to. So I gave them I presented the situation to them, and then they had to go and work out what they were doing. It got very messy, but I thought I'd do the audio thing to back up special effects and everything, of course. Yeah.
So, Sweyn, would you add anything to Paul's technology first aid box?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, probably. But I mean, I have a bag. I have my bag, which is a very redundant version of what Paul's describing there. I would love to get my kit down to that sort of size. It would be great. And I know what you mean. For anything that you do as a thing, like ICT support in this case, because the first aid is for the first aider, not for the victim, not for the casualty. Victim. Let's move on from that. But yes, I think it's a really good thing to do. It almost kind of makes you think about the scope of what you're trying to offer, because if you're trying to make your kit function for as many people as possible for the things that you definitely want to do, then that's a really good way of kind of refining what it is, how you're thinking about what you're doing. And I think even from that point of view, it's great. Mine is a complete mess. My bag is a total mess of everything to do with audio, visual, computer networking, digital devices, you name it. There's an attempt in there somewhere to do something with it. And I'm sure I have one of those old Apple phone charger cables somewhere.
Yeah, you can still buy them.
The difference between having something somewhere and knowing that it's where it is in your kit is a really huge difference.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah, I do have a box of cables.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think we all have
I
one
like
of
the
those.
meme. I like the internet meme that's been going around saying, basically saying, middle-aged man decides not to throw out his box of cables just in case this is the year that one of them might be useful.
Yes, indeed.
I think that
Yeah,
gets. I think that gets
definitely.
all of us, isn't it? Really.
Mm. I got a new phone for work, for my new job, and it had a charging end. You probably can't see it very well. It's a Huawei device, and so I didn't get a cable with it because it had come via somebody else in the organization. So I was kind of waiting for my boss to kind of say yes, just buy a charger, and then I realized I might have talked to you about this, Paul. I could just buy one for 150 in Poundland.
Yes.
So again, people get fooled into thinking they have to spend a lot of money on these bits of kit, and sometimes, as you have told me as well, Paul, before, CEX or eBay or it doesn't have to be very expensive, is what I'm saying. People are fooled into thinking they have to get the branded stuff, but they don't always.
No. I think what you showed me there, from what I could see, was like a C-type, which is the most modern connection, just rounded edges. It's actually the most friendly because it doesn't matter which way it goes in, but you'll find in pound shops, it's not quite as up to date. So it's going to be problematic. And I think
this has a flat bottom, so I was able to get a cable for it in Poundland, but yeah, I know the one you mean. I've got my Samsung on they've grounded one.
Yeah. So I think that's the other issue as well. This is the thing about the march forwards and how some people go their own. So not looking at you, Apple. Yeah, but they like to do that, don't they?
They do.
There are some things that are talked about as a good thing on the horizon, but they consistently remain over the horizon. And one of them is the standard charger socket. We've been talking about this for 20 years at least. Another of them is the paperless office. Well, I suppose in some ways we're maybe slightly closer to that than we were. So yeah, I think we'll always have a situation where we've got at least 4 or 5 different charger formats.
Yeah, I think with the different companies all haggling for space, that they will do that, and especially locking us into their proprietary systems.
Yeah.
It's true. I think it's really hard going to negotiate it. I think for people, I think that's one of the issues as well.
By the time it's all agreed, the requirements for what it does have moved on. So that somebody has a justification for introducing a new one that isn't the standard one, and then we're just going through the whole thing for the next 5 to 10 year cycle.
Oh yeah, and one thing to note about this cable is that it's only a charging cable. I can't move data around with it.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's another thing. You have to go and get a proper cable to do that. That's where it costs money. You may be able to find a reasonable one, but it's when it starts to cost. And then you would have to just sort of negotiate that again. So there's a whole load of company lock-in, again, with how accessibility settings on phones have just improved over the years. If you have an older phone, there's no night mode. There's no, not making things easier to use. So I think what happens is there is a sort of a good thing with moving forward, but it's also about how you can move forward. And it's trying to negotiate that and give people good advice.
Yeah.
It's very hard. I have to be the salesman again.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the salesman again. I want to be able to just go, well, I'm not going to get a cut of this, but here, go for that. I think the toolbox as a whole is a really sort of a good approach for a bunch of things that thanks, Sweyn. It is about scope of what you're going to be offering people and about what kind of services you're going to be offering people. I've been doing IT surgeries for the last month, and now this week I start my Internet City course. And the group I'm working with on on the Monday morning, I had last week some very sharp lady just say, "We all need one-to-one support, don't we?" You know, well, yeah, you do, but it's not going to happen, is it? You know. So I think what happens is that there's always this mix. It's always been said that there's no one solution to it, and it's a whole capacity outstrips demand outstrips capacity. That's the one. So you can never really deal with all of these things, because what's happened is that I almost want to grab hold of a few young people and, "Hey, you, come here. This is how you do it. Take your time."
You know, because damn it.
Telling you, be patient. Calm down. I think there's some lovely things to be said there about just trying to show people what can be done. It's just that how you do it as well, and having some tools to facilitate that would help.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna talk about a few of the stories we picked up in the last week or so about digital inclusion and literacy and so on. Sweyn, if we go to the one about Microsoft, they've launched a tech resilience curriculum to foster a more inclusive future. We picked this up on their blog. And what they've announced, what they're calling a growth and resilience in tech toolkit, and this includes 9 new Learn modules available free on Microsoft Learn to help anyone in tech, from student to employee, mentor or manager, to hone these important non-tech skills and foster a more inclusive and diverse workplace. And I didn't know this, but in 2020 they launched this curriculum as a pilot, and they were able to connect with over 1,200 students across 1,900 universities, 97% of whom said that this had a profound impact, teaching them skills they can immediately apply in school and life, which seems to have some benefits. So they partnered with Mount Holyoke's MetaView mentors to build a research-based toolkit involving core psychological, educational, and team-based concepts and skills, part of kind of a learning pathway for the tech industry. And the goal is to help to usher in a new and diverse generation within the technical and resilience skills needed to have a great impact in the world. And they're aiming to build a more inclusive future by fostering confidence, resilience, and a sense of belonging across industries. So they have a load of skills that they want to encourage to make belongingness, growth mindset, and other core problem solving and collaboration strategies top of mind and actionable. The toolkit consists of videos, activities, and reflection questions, and they have 3 principles their modules are organized across. The first one is to recognize discomfort, which is kind of allied to what we've been talking about just earlier, I think. They say, in tech, we're lifelong learners, and we're always going to be pushed to learn something new. We've all felt out of our comfort zone, whether it's learning a new tool, asking for help, working closely with a team, or just pitching an idea. They acknowledge programming requires learning. It's not an innate skill, and struggle, challenge, and discomfort can be part of learning computer science. They do admit even the most experienced professionals at Microsoft make mistakes or hit writing blocks, and great programmers are made through practice and experience. So that's their recognizing the discomfort principle. Second one is strategize solutions. Have you ever been presented with a challenge and felt like you didn't even know where to start? So strategic problem solving abilities to plan, iteratively test, evaluate and refine work are necessary for group or individual projects, and how we approach something can be as important as the final solution. I think this is, this is for Microsoft. People use Microsoft Learn, but I think it applies across the board as well. This process includes awareness of our emotional state, as well as management or regulation of our emotional reactions. Simply put, technical skills aren't enough. We often devote inordinate hours to learning how to use and create with technology, but relatively few hours on our emotions. And making space to recognize and strategize around the role emotions play is essential for succeeding in computer science and at work. And the third principle is pivot and persist. And I think this is a kind of tech term for something we have been doing. Have you ever felt you're like a breaking point? Unexpected challenges arise every day. These can sometimes push us to the edge. Sometimes we might have a plan ready to go, and then something goes wrong, and at times this can lead us to feel like giving up. Learning how to react to and recover from unexpected disruptions or setbacks is an important ability to hone. Understanding and naming what's happening, disentangling what we do and do not have control over, and regrouping with new strategies helps to improve persistence and the ability to bounce back or pivot rather than panic in the face of difficulty. And I think that's something that, you know, from what you're saying, Paul, is something that you've been doing with people, even if this is in the language that you've been using. So it's interesting to see Microsoft launching it as a tech resilience curriculum.
It is. It's an interesting point. I don't call it pivoting because I find it's a bit of a business term. I use the maritime version. I will change tack, find the wind, and let it push me forward.
Yeah, that sounds much more relatable. Yeah,
it does sound a bit more understandable.
Okay. The next story, Sweyn, is the NDIA community defines digital inclusion ecosystem. I thought this was useful. This is in India, by a story from someone called Yvette Scorse. And they describe the digital inclusion ecosystem, a combination of programs, policies that meet a geographic community's unique and diverse needs. Coordinating entities work together in an ecosystem to address all aspects of the digital divide, including affordable broadband devices and skills. And they give some points about what indicates a strong digital inclusion ecosystem. Firstly, being an existence of programs and policies addressing all aspects of the digital divide, and they list affordable and subsidized broadband service options, affordable and subsidized device ownership programs, multilingual digital literacy and digital strategy, digital skill trainings, and hardware and software technical support, as well as digital navigation services to guide residents to the above services. So it's great to have all the kind of bells and whistles available, but if you don't know about them, then you're not going to benefit from this. That's very, very good to hear. And the second point in this ecosystem list was about collaboration. Entities providing local digital inclusion services, policymakers, advocates, social service providers, and community leaders co-create service solutions in partnership with the community. And I think that comes back to your point, Paul, about asking people what they want to achieve rather than teaching them about technology. So good to hear that's happening in India and elsewhere.
Did you notice that I don't know if it's an Indian thing, but the Digital Inclusion Week started this week in the website?
I didn't see that.
It was at the top. It was a banner.
Was it? Okay, right. I missed that because I was looking at the script I had in front of me. Yeah, good to see that happening, and it is happening elsewhere in the world as well. So yeah, it'd be great to have a global thing.
It would be really useful to be able to have something like that. We have our own Get Online Week soon, don't we?
We do. We mentioned it last week. Yeah, 18th to the 24th of October, and I'm busy devising sessions for people in my areas. Paul, are you kind of busy getting ready for that?
Every week.
Every week is Digital Inclusion Week.
Every week. I'd love to be able to do more in tune with it, but I never seem to. I think it's part and parcel. It tends to be put with the online centres network, and I'm not quite part of that. So yes, but no, Pauline.
Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, I mean, what I'm doing is organising some sessions myself, but also liaising with the people in my community digital skills network to see what they're doing, so we can let people know what the opportunities are out there, rather than feeling we all have to do everything ourselves, which is much more collaborative, much more my way of doing things. Yeah. So the final, I think we'll have Sweyn, we'll have time for one final story, which was about referring back to this Oxford report about public libraries helping bridge the digital divide. We had Ciara Allman as a guest on the show previously, and this was a story from July 2021. It's just good to remind ourselves that this report was about Oxfordshire, but it has a resonance beyond the county boundary. The report, detailed that requests for digital help varied widely, and Dr. Allman, who was the author and also digital helper in the libraries, helped with everything from printing payslips to finding housing. And she found herself showing people with limited experience of the digital world how to type a CV in Word or set up an email account. Talking through every key press and translating and slowly and carefully the visual vernacular of the digital world. So yeah, as we said before, we take certain things for granted, but it's a bit gobbledygook or a bit strange for people for whom they haven't educated themselves in that way or had the opportunities that we have had. But it's clear from the report that libraries were providing and are providing an important service. And so Dr. Allman felt she kind of had a window into digital exclusion generally. The report, this article goes on to say, although there's an expectation that everyone has access to the digital world and everything from claiming benefits to booking vaccine appointments are done online, the team found in the report many people are being excluded, and the key findings were that nearly a third of library computer users, 31.3%, don't have a smartphone. 3 in 10 library computer users had no computer at home, and nearly a fifth of them had no internet connection at home. And over half of these library computer users had incomes of 20,000 or less. So, you know, it is a financial situation as well for some people. And there were several policy recommendations, and it's good to revisit these and remind people in case they need to think about what they need to do. Library staff's digital skills should be enhanced so staff can be prepared for the high volume and complexity of help requests. Funding should be increased and more volunteers recruited. There should be a shift of focus for digital inclusion from skills to well-being, recognizing digital is just one aspect of a person's social context. And community awareness should be increased, and outreach is needed to make libraries more welcoming for people excluded from services. So I think if we can keep banging the drum for libraries to get that help and recognize the help they are giving, and kind of to carry on doing it more and more, we know that will make a difference. So I think that brings us to the end of this week's show. Paul, thanks very much for joining us again. Once again, if people want to find you online, what's the best way?
You can just go to soulchip.co.uk. That's where you'll find me. Great.
That's SOUL chip.
Yep, CHIP. Yeah,
sure.
It doesn't. Yep. My mic might not do the job.
Thanks very much for joining us again. Thanks, Sweyn.
Thanks for having me.
The sun's come out again, so hopefully I'm going to get out and get some sunshine and improve my mental health again today. So thanks very much, everybody. Have a great week. Bye.